Hello and welcome back on part 2 of the main highlights presented by Phillips in association with Back Russo. And in this episode we are going to talk about some pretty serious and exceptional timepieces. And I have to admit that being able to see up close and personal all these incredible timepieces is a real and immense privilege for me. I am very fortunate. So well, let's get back with Mr. Bacs as soon as now. Well, I guess a few things have changed since then, but let's now talk about what is for sure the superstar of the auction.
The watch that I think is the highlight of the Geneva auction series this coming spring. It is probably, and I don't want to be the person who makes that definitive statement, the probably most important, most valuable, most exclusive Rolex wristwatch in private hands. It is the Bao Dai. The Bao Dai is a Rolex reference 6062, one of two models ever created to feature the self-winding movement by Rolex with triple calendar featuring the weekday, the month, the date outside and the phases of the moon. The sister reference is the 8171. That is, however, not an oyster case. Reference 6062, in my view, is the single Rolex reference that displays best Rolex's savoir-faire, know-how, as it reunites a number of features that all stand for Rolex individually, but we can only find them in one single reference, which is the 6062. It is the oyster case. Rolex and oyster are two names that are today burnt in our minds as the perfect match. It is with the screw back, it has a super oyster crown, it's the waterproof, typical Rolex waterproof case. The word perpetual. Perpetual stands here for self-winding. It was Mr. Wilsdorf's aim, and he achieved it, to make a carefree self-winding wristwatch. And indeed, in the 1930s, he managed to do that. And since then, the word Rolex Oyster Perpetual stood for a perfectly self-winding and water-resistant watch. Not every Rolex is such. We have the Rolex Prince, the snap-on back watches that are not waterproof, and this really ticks every box. It is the most complicated Oyster Perpetual that Rolex ever made. And now here we have, within that specific reference, the most exclusive of all dials. We have the black lacquer dial adorned with diamond hour markers, but only on the even numbers. We know of other examples that have the diamond numerals on the uneven numerals. Now this watch was bought by Bao Dai. Bao Dai himself, the last emperor of Vietnam, when visiting Geneva in about 1954, he went here in the center, not far from here, to the Rolex shop and asked for the most exclusive and most precious Rolex they would possibly be able to offer him. From what I heard from his son, from his late son, he wasn't pleased at all with those humble day justs and humble day dates eventually that would be shown to him. However, after insisting, they agreed to contact the headquarters. Back then Rolex was in Carouge. They were not yet here in Geneva at François Dussault, and they have told him to wait a moment as la voiture de la direction, the board member's car, would bring a piece they have on the headquarters vault to show to him. This was the watch. And he purchased the watch. The watch remained his throughout his life. He left it to his favorite son. And back in 2002, here at Phillips, I've already had the pleasure and privilege to sell this watch for the first time. Back then, it achieved a world record for any Rolex ever sold at auction, less than $300,000 back then. And since then, scholars, collectors, auction house specialists always said, this is the Rolex that probably sums up an entire century of Rolex achievements and represents the pinnacle of Rolex collecting. Now we offer it with a starting price of 1.5 million francs. I have been told by a number of collectors, why so conservative? I'm not going to comment that. I don't have a crystal ball. But this watch here deserves to enter one of the most important private collections, to become one of the crowning top pieces in this collection. And I guess we have to wait another few weeks until we know what the most precious Rolex wristwatch is worth today.
Like I said, always a pleasure to listen to Mr. Bacs, and we're naturally looking forward to seeing what the actual results will be. Count on us to make a follow-up on this, and as a quick reminder, the auction is held on the 13th and 14th of May, and you are naturally more than welcome to participate either here in Geneva directly in the auction room, but also on Phillips' website for those of you that are interested. And there aren't only $1 million lots out there, so 237 lots, so best luck for all of you, for the most daring of you, I should say. Thank you for your time. See you real soon with some other impressive vintage timepieces. All the very best.